Well, I do think, and to be fair to Juwan, and if we're gonna bag on him, at least we'll defend him somewhat. I do think the basketball program.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I do think they need some more NIL support.
Yeah.
I think the NIL scales at Michigan are heavily, heavily tilted towards football, and it should be. That's your moneymaker. That's what you've built your athletic department on is the football program. However, if you want to be competitive in the transfer portal market, and now in recruiting, when you pitch this NIL program, I do think Juwan should get a little more the support than what he's getting right now. I mean, he's sitting there scrambling like, what can I do? I can't offer $400,000 for a recruit. I can't, this guy's offering $400,000, but the most I can do is 50,000 with the support that I have. I think a lot of that has to do with it too. And I think, it might feel like, NIL is the fallback option when a kid doesn't go to your school. Oh, he's getting the bag. But I do think now the bag and NIL is a legitimate argument to make for why some programs are struggling, because they don't have the support to offer a competitive, or I'm sorry, but collectives to offer a competitive package for these kids. So it's wild west out there right now, and I think it's worse in basketball than it is in football.
Yep.
I think football learned its lesson. Obviously a lot more programs in and a lot more money in football, but I think a lot of these, I think I totally agree with you. I think the water hasn't found its level on the basketball side of things yet, and it's going to take a couple of messy situations before that starts evening out. However, I do think Michigan should get more support on the NIL for the basketball side of things. I do think Juwan needs to get that support for sure.
Counter argument is winning fixes everything.
True. And that's, again, yeah.
I mean, football, everyone's like, well, wait, what did football do? They won.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, from an NIL standpoint, yes, I've been talking about Michigan's roadmap, what they've been talking about doing, they're doing, it's working, et cetera. I don't want to get into that too much. But Juwan Howard, and I'm going to bring up admissions too, because this is part of it. Right. The idea of the hand tied behind the back, but I'm making this argument in terms of NIL being a issue. Terrence Shannon wanted to come to Michigan. Caleb Love wanted to come to Michigan, right? Olivia Kamwa is seriously considering, could potentially choose Michigan, right? Yeah. So I know what happened with Hunter, and I know that the conversation around that, but I do wonder if this was another Sweet 16 or Elite 8 run, if we're talking about NIL the way we are. But basketball, what we're talking about from a support standpoint, man, I've been hearing about this for 20 years, whether it's the size of the Maze Rage or even the support the students get, or just the environment in general in Chrysler, and et cetera, et cetera. I think there's got to be a lot of conversations had, and Juwan's going to have to, like you said, I mean, to Jim's credit, Juwan made his comments back in August around NIL. Mm-hmm. And then there really hasn't been a ton there. To Jim's credit, he has been very vocal, and he stays vocal. And when we go to these events, Jim's at those events, and he's, it feels like that shouldn't be the head coach's job, and maybe it shouldn't be. And that's part of it. But
yeah, well, when you've got a program like Michigan that preaches that you're not going to pay guys up front, you have to put in the extra work. You have to put in, you have to show face and try to do all that stuff, because, you're not, some of these programs aren't even hiding the fact that they're just giving kids cash straight up.
Yeah.
So
the Miami commitment graphics that literally have stacks of money in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I was like,
that's Miami for you. And
then the NCAA is like, you know what? We're going to start looking at this. And they go after the twin sisters on the basketball team. Cause
right. Right. I mean, and I know you brought up admissions. I think the football program has figured out the secret sauce, so to speak, in terms of circumventing the admissions issue. I don't think, Michigan, the admissions department isn't going to say, okay, we're going to loosen up our restrictions and change the way we do things. I think the football program has figured it out. It's grad transfers or a guy that's been in a school for 1 year leaves, like Ernest Hausman. That's the perfect example of who they go after and what works. Yep. It's either a grad transfer with 1 or 2 years available, maybe more, or a guy has been 1 year and has 4 or 5 years. So they've figured it out, but yeah, I mean, Michigan's admissions are admissions, but the football program has figured it out. There's no reason why the basketball program can't figure it out either.
And for the sake of playing both sides of the argument too, you could argue Michigan is too harsh in the sense that when they're not taking a transfer from a peer, right? Like a school that is on Michigan's level, right? Like the Big Ten makes such a big deal about AAU and some of the academic standards, right? So when a kid can transfer from Michigan to Stanford or UCLA and there's no issue, but maybe it doesn't happen vice versa, that kind of gets me to raise an eyebrow. And I agree a little bit. I will say, and I'm not going to get into any details here because I'm not going to try and disparage a kid or a specific person at all, but there have been some situations where some of these kids where we're screaming about admissions have failed for the last year or something, right? Like these other schools are doing things when you talk about circumventing, they're going to another level, right? So you could argue Michigan needs to move the line down a little bit in terms of transfers, and I'm here for that conversation. But in terms of, in the same way some schools are blatantly cheating with NIL and blah, 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 some schools are still not even pretending that they care about the academic part, right? So